On a Linux system, software is installed and updated through package managers such as apt, Debian, Ubuntu, or yum/dnf, Red Hat, CentOS, Fedora. These package managers download software from repositories. A repository is a server that hosts packages and the metadata describing them, version numbers, dependencies, cryptographic signatures. By default, your distribution ships with official repositories maintained by the distribution's own team. These are considered trusted sources because the packages are reviewed, signed, and tested. However, official repositories do not contain everything. Sometimes you need a newer version of a tool, a specialized security utility, or software that the distribution does not package at all. This is when you turn to third-party repositories. A third-party repository is any package source that is not maintained by your distribution's core team. Common examples include Personal Package Archives, PPA, on Ubuntu, hosted on Launchpad. Vendor repositories, such as the official Docker, Google Chrome, or Microsoft repositories. Community repositories like EPEL, extra packages for Enterprise Linux, for Red Hat-based systems. Manually downloaded deb or RPM package files from a website. Third-party repositories are powerful, but they introduce real security risks. When you add a repository, you are granting that source the ability to install and update software on your machine, often with administrative, root, privileges. If the repository is compromised, malicious, or simply poorly maintained, you could receive backdoored software, outdated packages with known vulnerabilities, or conflicting versions that break your system. To understand why this matters, remember how trust works in package management. Every legitimate repository signs its packages and its metadata with a cryptographic key, usually a GPG, GNU Privacy Guard, key. When your package manager downloads a package, it verifies the signature against a public key that you have installed and trusted. If the signature matches, the package manager is confident the package has not been tampered with in transit and truly comes from the expected source. If the signature does not match, or if no key is available, the package manager refuses the installation or shows a warning. This is the core security mechanism. You must import and trust the correct GPG key before using a third-party repository. Blindly disabling signature checks, for example with options like Allow Unauthenticated on apt or NogP Check on DNF, removes this protection and is a dangerous practice. A quiz question might test whether you know that these options bypass signature verification. Let us look at concrete examples of adding a third-party repository safely. On a Debian or Ubuntu system, the modern approach is download the vendor's GPG public key and store it in /etc/app/keyrings or /user/share/keyrings as a file. For example, docker.gpg. Add a line in /etc/app/sources.list or a file in /etc/app/sources.list.d/ that points to the repository URL and references the key file with the signed by option. Run apt update to refresh the package lists, then apt install to install the software. The older method used apt key add to import keys into a single global keyring. This method is now deprecated because a key trusted globally could sign packages for any repository, which is a security weakness. The recommended practice is to bind each key to its specific repository using signed by, so a Docker key can only validate Docker packages. On a Red Hat, CentOS, or Fedora system, you typically create a repo file in /etc/yum.repos.d/ describing the repository name, the base URL, whether GPG checking is enabled, GPG check equals 1, and the location of the GPG key, GBG key equals. Import the key with RPM import or let DNF import it after prompting you. Install with DNF install or yum install. Enabling EPEL, a widely used community repository, is usually done by installing the EPEL release package, which sets up the repository file and imports the correct signing key automatically. Beyond adding repositories, security updates deserve special attention. Not all updates are equal. Distributions separate updates into categories, and one of the most important is security updates, patches that fix vulnerabilities that attackers could exploit. Keeping security updates current is one of the simplest and most effective defenses against attacks. Tools help you focus on security patches. On Debian and Ubuntu, the package Unattended Upgrades can automatically install security updates without manual intervention. You can also run apt list upgradable to see what needs updating. On Red Hat-based systems, DNF Update Info List Security shows only security-related updates, and DNF Upgrade Security applies only those. Automating security updates reduces the window of exposure between the moment a vulnerability is disclosed and the moment your machine is patched. However, automated updates can occasionally break services, so on production servers many administrators test updates in a staging environment first, or configure automatic updates only for the security category while reviewing other changes manually. When assessing the security of third-party repositories, keep these principles in mind. Prefer official vendor repositories over random community mirrors or unknown websites. Always use HTTPS repository URLs so the download itself cannot be intercepted and altered. Always verify GPG signatures. Never disable signature checking as a shortcut. Bind keys to specific repositories instead of trusting them globally. Limit the number of third-party repositories you add. Each one increases your attack surface and the risk of package conflicts. Review a repository's reputation and maintenance activity before adding it. An abandoned repository may ship packages with unpatched vulnerabilities. Remove repositories you no longer use so they cannot silently push updates later. A related risk is dependency confusion and supply chain attacks. If a third-party repository has a higher priority than the official one, it could override an official package with a malicious version of the same name. On DNF you can set priority values, and on apt you can use pinning in /etc/apt/preferences to control which source wins when the same package exists in multiple repositories. Understanding pinning and priority is important because a misconfiguration could let an untrusted source silently replace trusted software. Finally, remember the connection to software composition analysis, a practice central to DevSecOps. Just as you scan application libraries for known vulnerabilities, you should treat the operating system packages and their repositories as part of your software supply chain. A vulnerability database such as the Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures list helps you identify which installed packages are affected by a known flaw. In summary, repositories are the trusted or untrusted sources from which Linux installs software. GPG signatures are the mechanism that guarantees authenticity. Third-party repositories add flexibility but also risk, and disciplined handling of security updates and repository trust is a fundamental skill for anyone securing a Linux system.